Angels Care Home Health, serving Hayes and the surrounding areas, is a Medicare-certified home health agency providing quality skilled nursing and restorative therapy services to patients in their homes.
They're polite. I mean, they just take the time for you.
Angels Care is there to help 24 hours a day, and all services are covered 100% by Medicare for patients who are eligible.
I like the Angels for what they've done for me.
Angels Care Home Health. We serve patients.
Eagle Community Television presents Community Connection with your host, Mike Cooper.
Hello and welcome again to Community Connection from Eagle Community Television. Thanks for watching, and thanks as always to the producer of the series, Jeff Durall. We're at the Hayes Water Plant, South Vine in Hayes, with the superintendent of the Hayes Water Plant, Tim Huck. Tim's going to give us some of the insights of how when you turn the tap on, you get dependable, clean, and safe water, thanks to the employees and the efforts of the Hayes Water Plant and the City of Hayes. Tim, let's begin at the beginning here. Where does the water come from?
A lot of our water comes from, we have 12 wells located along the Smoky Hill River near Shinshin. We have 6 Dakota wells that are southwest of town. And then we have about 6 wells in the city that we use on a regular basis.
Now Jeff's going to take a picture of the map, and he's going to show us the map areas. So those areas that are highlighted are where the wells are located. Interesting though that because of the efficiency of Hayes residents, Tim, you tell us that those wells aren't used all the time.
Right. We don't use near the water we did back in the 80s. The city of Hayes does an awesome job of conserving water. So there may be, during the summer, there may be only 2 or 3 smoky wells running and 2 or 3 city wells.
And even during the summertime, when the water use is heavier because of outside watering in gardens and lawns and things, even those aren't used to capacity.
That's correct.
You mentioned too that as a new superintendent, you came on board here, just a few months ago, right?
Yeah, November.
Of course, you got a long history here at the Hayes Water Plant as well, Tim.
Yeah, I've been here about 22 years.
So you moved from maintenance to superintendent.
Yes.
And with that comes a chance to go to some of the conferences. And going back to the water conservation issue, I guess you really get questioned a lot about that conservation that the city of Hayes has done. I guess it's spread nationwide practically, hasn't it?
Yeah, one of the guys was in a conference in Las Vegas, and when they heard he was from Hayes, Kansas, they started asking questions.
And what do you tell them?
Well, we do have a water conservation specialist, and he does commercials on TV, goes to the schools, talks to the kids. The city gives away shower heads, there's rebates for low flow toilets. There's a lot involved in it.
And it really takes the cooperation of the citizens to make this whole thing work, doesn't it, Tim?
We couldn't do without them.
Well, let's take a look at the water then. How many steps approximately, when the water comes in from the wells, about how many steps take place with this system to get the water to the pipes for the distribution?
After the wells pump the water to the plant, first thing we do is add chlorine to it as a disinfectant, and then we run it through an aeration unit, which helps oxidize the iron. And then we go into our settling basins. We add lime and soda ash, and it seems strange to add minerals to the water to remove minerals, but it works.
That's what works then, huh?
We have 2 primary settling basins, 2 secondaries.
Are they the outside areas that we see, the big round
the big round tanks outside?
Okay.
The biggest one's about 70-foot diameter.
Okay.
And from there, it flows through our final filters, make sure all the particles come out of the water, and then it flows into underground reservoirs. We have 4 underground reservoirs. 2 of them hold 1 million gallons. One of them's 500,000 and one 50,000 gallons. And we have finished water underground ready to go in case there's a fire or something.
So, what, 250,000 gallons? 2 million?
2.5 million.
2.5 million gallons of water in storage tanks under the plant here, ready to go if needed for emergency situations. That's amazing. Were these built when the original plant was built?
The original, the smallest one, the 50,000 gallon was under the plant, and then actually the 500,000 was before this plant was built. They would actually pump water from the Smoky into this reservoir, into the old 500,000 gallon reservoir.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
All of this underground, ready to go.
And then our 2 towers in the air, one's 1 million and one's 500,000.
Those are the ones that are obviously the water storage areas that we can see then. Amazing situation. So what tests are done? You mentioned some of the additions of the chlorine, for example, and the other additions that are made to the water. What kind of tests do you run, and how often do you do them, Tim?
Every 2 hours, they do tests to confirm disinfection. That's the number one thing. And then the rest of the tests are for the softening process, to see how much of the minerals we're getting out of the water and calculate doses. The water from different wells has different qualities. Some of it has more calcium in it, some has more iron. So and when you change wells, then you have different water, so you've got to change your chemical settings to keep up with it.
And you monitor that on a regular basis,
Yes.
and every 2 hours there's a test run.
Every 2 hours.
So that's
Day
part
and
of
night.
what the employees do, day and night, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every day of the year.
Yes.
That's an amazing process as well. Who makes the rules concerning those tests and the acceptable levels?
Well, the state of Kansas does. A lot of their guidelines come from the EPA, and the state adopts them. Yeah. But the Kansas Department of Health and Environment is the one watching this.
And do those change frequently? Are they pretty much consistent?
Every few years they get a little tighter on what's acceptable. Yeah.
Anything come from the federal level, or does it all filter down through the state from the federal level and such?
Some of the guidelines are set by the federal government, but the state's the one enforcing them.
And do they inspect? Do they come and visit and make
yes.
sure on a regular
They do.
basis that you're towing the mark, so to speak, Tim?
Yes, they do.
Let's talk about the distribution of the system. This is a rather unique thing that you pointed out to Jeff and me earlier. It's a gravity system. Explain that a little bit, would you, Tim?
Well, the water in the towers creates the pressure. Sometimes at night when the towers are full, we're not even pumping water out of the plant. But we pump water into the distribution system, and it goes wherever it's needed, and the excess goes up into the towers. We don't pump directly into the towers.
Okay. Goes to the plant first, then to the distribution system, then any excess goes into the towers.
Yes.
They're not full all the time, is that right?
That's correct.
Interesting.
Usually when the towers are at their lowest point, our underground reservoirs are at their highest point, so they go back and forth.
You mentioned too that this entire system at one time, in its early days, was operated before electricity. Was that right?
No, the plant could run without electricity.
It could run without electricity.
Yes, because
Still distributing the water.
to actually pump it into distribution, they had a pump that was powered by a natural gas engine, like an irrigation engine.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And that, of course, then was replaced by the newer systems.
We still have that engine, and we could use it if we had to, but we have a big diesel generator that can run this whole plant. No problem.
But an amazing system that was put in place to get the water to haze in the early days, before some of the modern technology. Has the plant changed much over the years that you've been here, Tim?
Not a lot. Probably the biggest change was when I was hired. They call it a SCADA system, and it's basically a computer and radios that communicate to the wells. We can start and stop wells and monitor water levels from the plant.
So you've modernized to the computer systems that can monitor what's necessary or show you changes that might occur suddenly then.
Yes.
Interesting. What kind of pipes are common throughout the city? I guess from about the last 50 years of some of those water systems being in place in the city of Hays, what's the common pipe that's in the older parts of the city, Tim?
In the older parts, there still may be some cast iron, but the newer metal pipe is ductile iron, and all of the newest pipe is a PVC, plastic pipe.
That's the newest idea in longevity for pipes?
Yes.
What about those old cast iron pipes? Any concerns there?
Well, basically when they start having trouble with breaks, a lot of breaks in a certain area, they'll go through and hire a contractor and replace like several blocks of pipe at a time. So.
And I assume cast iron probably rust issues?
Yeah.
Okay, and that's mainly where a failure might occur?
Yes. And if the ground shifts, even the seasons, the temperature changes as the ground moves, and that can.
I've heard that the street maintenance guys tell me the same story, that the heating and the cooling in these summers and winters in Hays can be really tough on the streets, but they can be tough on the water pipes too.
Yes.
Same thing around the plant here, I assume?
Yeah. Yeah, we have to fight the weather, just like everybody else.
How many employees generally, and what kind of duties do they perform, Tim, here at the water plant?
Well, we have 3 shift operators. The plant runs 24 hours a day. We have 3 relief operators, and then when the relief operators aren't operating, they're on days on maintenance. And then we have 2 full-time maintenance guys, and then we have our administrative assistant, which keeps everything going. We couldn't do without her.
In other words, she works for you and keeps you in line then,
Absolutely.
basically. Tell me about your work here at the plant. How did you get involved in the Hays Water Plant?
Oh, well, they had an ad in the paper. They wanted somebody with some electronics experience. That's when they purchased the SCADA system. So that's how I got hired.
Now this is the system that kind of runs or operates the plant.
The computer that
controls it. And from that, when the superintendent's job came up, were you interested? Did somebody approach you?
I wasn't interested, no, but they kept bugging me, so I finally took it.
Well, from a maintenance standpoint, you know this place inside and out then, don't you?
I sure do.
Tell me about where we are now. What's this room here that we're in, Tim?
These are, we have 6 final filters. They make sure that most of the particles are removed from water before they go down to the underground reservoirs.
So this is the final stop then, basically, before they go into those big 2.5 million gallon tanks that are under the plant then. And there are 6 of these then?
Yes.
Okay. And the maintenance that's required, what kind of maintenance are we looking at here for the plant?
Oh, but besides just the cleaning and painting, mowing and stuff, there's a lot of mechanical and electrical maintenance. There's a lot of pumps and a lot of motors in this plant.
Oh, yeah.
And a few years ago, we started replacing them with energy efficient motors. And that was a big project.
And this is done on an as-needed basis. When one goes out, then you replace it with a more
we
energy
replaced pretty much everything, yeah.
Oh, so you're ahead of the game then as far as energy efficiency.
They figured out that it would pay for itself in energy savings.
What about improvements to the plant over the last few years, let's say? Anything done to improve? Is it pretty much running itself?
It can't run by itself. It needs people to keep it going. But
well, that's always good to know.
As far as any major upgrades to the plant, no. The original design has just been maintained and updated slightly. There's really nothing new in the water industry that, unless we get some contaminants that we can't take out here. But if the water stays clean, we can keep going.
So as long as the wells are pulling good water, then the plant's okay. nothing in the future then is necessary for the plant as far as you can tell.
No.
Okay. It's been an interesting tour. Tell me about, in our final stop here, the wall area here by us with the meters and the switches and the buttons and things. What's that, Tim?
Well, most of the switches and lights and stuff aren't even functional anymore. The SCADA system replaced that, but that's
This was the older system.
Yes.
Ah.
Yes, that's how they started the pumps and
So
the
now
alarms.
it's all
and stuff.
computer.
Yes.
That's an amazing. It's really, it's quite an operation. It really is.
Yep, it's the biggest machine I've ever had to work on. So
And it works pretty well.
most of the time, yes.
Most of the time. You know, for those of us who turn on the tap and get the water, it's just amazing that we have so many dedicated people like the superintendent, Tim Huck, and the people who work behind the scenes at the plant, taking care of the maintenance and such.
We also have another crew that takes care of the distribution system, the water main breaks.
the water mains.
They get called out in the middle of the night and they'll work one, and a few hours later they might get called out again.
And that could be 110 degrees or it could be 10 degrees.
Yep.
But they're out there doing the job.
Yes, they do it.
So that we get dependable, safe water. Thanks to you and all the employees in the city of Hayes, Tim, for the water that we take for granted. We appreciate it. Tim Huck, Superintendent of the Hayes Water Plant, our community connection.
Angels Care Home Health, serving Hayes and the surrounding areas, is a Medicare certified home health agency providing quality skilled nursing and restorative therapy services to patients in their homes.
And the Angel Care nurse comes to see me once a week.
Angels Care is there to help 24 hours a day, and all services are covered 100% by Medicare for patients who are eligible.
Angel Care has helped to stay home.
Angels Care Home Health. We serve patients.